Hello, chemists. Today we are going to be working through the chemical and physical changes lab. And so since you are at home, you do not have the supplies necessary to complete this lab. So I'm going to go through and do the steps that you would otherwise be doing in the lab. And you can follow along, answer the questions. And so for station number 1, it has you take a piece of printer paper, rip off a small square, and is this ripping of a piece of paper an example of a chemical or physical exchange or change? Explain why or why not. For number 2, you are to take a gas burner, which I cannot take my camera over to a lab station. So instead of using a gas burner, I will light a match, and it instructs you to take a pair of forceps and light the piece of paper on fire. And is that a chemical or a physical change? Explain your opinions on that. For the third station, Station C, you are to grab a beaker from the cabinet, fill it with water, take a scoopula and some sugar, and sprinkle it in the beaker. Swirl it around until it dissolves. And is that an example of a physical or a chemical change? Explain why or why not it would be a physical or a chemical change. We'll leave that there for it to dissolve the rest of the way. Let's see here. For station 3, you'll set up a ring stand, wire gauze, put a beaker on the wire gauze, light the burner with a striker, allow the water to boil. Again, I cannot take a burner over here to where I have my camera. So instead, here is a boiling beaker of water that I have carried over, and you may or may not be able to see steam rising from the beaker. See if I have anything with a dark background. I don't think it's showing up very well on the camera. But there is indeed steam rising from this beaker. Is that a chemical or a physical change? Explain which one. For station 4, you are to take a mortar and pestle, put some sugar in there with your scoopula, and grind it up into a fine powder. So instead of it being real grainy, you have a nice fine powder in there. Very smooth and soft instead of those big grains. Is that a physical change? Is that a chemical change? Pick one and explain your decision. For station 5, using a scupula or forceps, take a small piece of zinc from the container and place it in a test tube, and then remove some of the liquid from the Erlenmeyer flask with a pipette and squirt it into the test tube. So I already have our liquid in the test tube right here. And so let me move the camera up here a little bit. You can see the steam coming out of this much better than you could with the beaker. You can see there's a vigorous bubbling. And if you were to touch that, that would be very warm to the touch, almost to the point where it would burn you if you held it too long. It may actually burn you if you held it too long. That is very toasty. So is this a physical change? Is it a chemical change? Pick one and explain your reasoning. All right. For the next station, station number 6. So we have our well plate. And you are to use a pipette, remove some of the liquid from the Erlenmeyer flask, and place it into a well on a well plate. All right. We'll take this one. So as you can see, that is a clear liquid. And then up next, we are going to be adding some of this liquid, which is kind of an off clear. It's got a little bit of a tint to it, but you can still see through it really well. And then we are going to put this in the same well, in the well plate. And you can see something happens there. A very beautiful, bright, purpley pink, magenta, fuchsia color. All right, and so next up we have station 7. Don't forget to answer, is that a physical change, is that a chemical change, and explain your reasoning. Up next for station 7, you don't have to worry about cross-contamination because you are not actually performing this, but cross-contamination is a very big issue when it comes to performing laboratory experiments. And so I'm going to grab 2 clean pipettes. And I'm going to add some of this liquid, which you can see is a clear liquid. I'm going to add a couple of drops in there. And then I have another liquid, another clear liquid. And I'm going to add this to the same well in our well plate. Hold it up here a little bit closer. And you can see quite the difference there between the two. So make your decision. Is that a chemical change? Is that a physical change? And then explain your reasoning for your decision. For station number 8, you are to remove 1 gram of what I have labeled as stuff. So I'm just going to put a little bit of stuff in the small beaker. And as you can see, it's clear, grainy. And then I am going to add some water. And what we have is that from that small volume of stuff and the little bit of water we added, we have all this new stuff. There's a lot of it. So what do you think? Is that a chemical change? Is that a physical change? Explain your reasoning for your decision. And let's see, next up we have station 9, which is potassium permanganate and glycerin or glycerol. And this one I cannot take my camera over to the fume hood. I do not want to do it at my desk because of the fumes. And so for this one, you will have to just Google a video of potassium permanganate and glycerol. And there should be plenty of videos out there that you can find of this. If not, let me know and I will find one for you. And after having watched that video, decide, is that a chemical reaction? Is it a physical reaction? And then argue to support your decision. Next up for station 10, you will be taking some of this substance, which is a cloudy kind of milky white substance. And then we have some of this, which is kind of like a dark brownish yellow color. And so what will happen when we add these two together? We are about to find out. So you can see at the top, it looks very dark and black, kind of like the second substance that we added. However, a little bit further down, you can see that it's more of a deep blue, kind of like a purple toward the top, you can see. Let me shake this up a little bit. Maybe you can see the difference. So it's not dark black. Something has happened here. Was it a physical change? Was it a chemical change? Make your decision and support your argument. Let's see, that's it. So those are all the stations. You have pre-lab and post-lab to do. And then based on what you have just seen, you will classify as each of those stations as having been a chemical or a physical change. And I will talk to you later. See you soon. Take care.